As you guys can see around me, I have quite the collection of reptiles. Now you guys are probably wondering, how exactly does he afford running such a collection of reptiles? Well, in today's video, what I'm going to be showing you guys is how exactly I budget my reptile collection without lowering the quality of care, but lowering the cost. Stay tuned. My name is Nick Pulaski. Growing up, I have always had a passion for wildlife, and with that passion, along with my passion of filmmaking, I get taken on some amazing adventures creating wildlife content, getting up close with a variety of incredible animals. So come follow along as I pursue my goals of educating, inspiring, exploring, and conserving wildlife, all while having fun, seeing the beauty in our natural world. Hey guys, thank you for joining me here today. So in today's video, like I said, we're going to be lowering the cost of your reptile collection and giving you guys tips and tricks, but not lowering the quality of care for your reptiles. So what exactly I mean is I'm going to be giving you guys tips that I personally use and I have been using over the years for my personal reptile collection. And these tips work perfectly for me, so they may hopefully work for you as well. If you guys also have any other questions or if you have any other tips, also down below, make sure you leave a comment. I would really appreciate that. It may help me and it may also help others too. And that's what's important here, is we're all trying to work together to help each other out and help all the animals that we're raising up in our collections. Species such as this Woma python right here, this is Willow. As you can see, she is growing like a weed. She is huge right now, and I think when I did this last video I was holding her, I mean, she fit in one hand. So in comparison from that video, we're going to go a little bit more in depth and we're going to give you guys a few more tips and tricks. So let's get to it. So tip number one, I think it may sound a little bit funny to some of you guys, but not being an impulsive spender. So I think it kind of goes back to those videos that I make about doing your research, making sure you know what you're taking on, because if you don't know what you're taking on ahead of time, you're going to be hiking up astronomical prices that are well beyond the initial getting into a reptile, and that's going to be something that can cost you. And in the end, it could be something that, one, you bit off more than you can chew and you unfortunately have to rehome it or something like that, or something goes wrong. Those cases come up. So not being an impulse buyer, sometimes there are cases where it does work out. I know personally I've done it in the past. I'm not a person that's been goody-goody on those kind of things. I've also been an impulse buyer and I've gotten into some amazing animals. But I think with those kind of purchases, I think I knew a little bit more going into it of what I needed to do in terms of caring for that animal, and I was capable of doing it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is knowing that you have that capability ahead of time, that's what's key. So tip number two that I'm going to give you guys is something that is crucial, I would say, if you're running a reptile collection, and that is bulk bedding. If you buy bedding in bulk, that is going to be huge. It's definitely going to save you guys in terms of cost. I mean, if you buy something in bulk, obviously prices are going to lower, and that's something that you want to look into. So for me, I buy paper towels in bulk, I buy cypress mulch in bulk. It's something that you definitely want to look into. Now, when you're buying like cypress mulch or anything like that, you want to make sure it's just a natural cypress mulch and you don't want any fertilizers or dyes added to those kind of things. That is something that you want to make sure is crucial. But yeah, as long as you're looking into those type of things, even cocoa blocks, anything like that, buy in bulk because it will be cheaper and help you in the long run. If you're someone like me who experiences winter once a year, you definitely want to make sure you buy in bulk because it sucks to go out in the winter and constantly have to buy bedding for your reptiles. So not only does it save on cost, but it saves on convenience as well too. So buy bedding in bulk. All right, so tip number three, this is something that is huge as well too, and that would be electrical costs. So as you can see, I'm in a room now, so I'm in a reptile room. So ambiently in this room, it stays to be in the low to mid 80s, and that's perfect because on my snake racks and on my racks and anything that's in here enclosure-wise, that is something that is ideal for the species that live in here. And with that being said as well too, the racks with their thermostats, they are feeling that temperature ambiently in the air, and that is something perfect for the animals. So the racks don't have to run on higher percentages for their electricity. So keeping the percentages down, that is crucial too, because if you do that, you're going to have a lower electric bill and it works out in the end. Mind you, I do also have UVB bulbs and everything like that as well too in here, so you can't really get around those kind of things. Now obviously only if you have like a couple animals, it's not going to make much of a difference, but if you have, like I said, I have like 30 plus animals in this room, and that's when it's going to make a difference in your electric bill. And that is something crucial, because if you have this room and it's like drafty or anything like that, you want to make sure you avoid anything that's of that circumstance, because that is something that is going to lower the ambient temperature of the room. And also too, it's also going to make your heat lamps and your heat tape or whatever you have, or your heat mats, run a lot higher in terms of percentage for their electricity. So definitely keep that in mind. So the next tip that I have for you guys is buying used rather than new. And there's a lot of opportunities to do this in a proper way where it's not going to cause any issues for you you or your animals or anything like that. I wouldn't recommend buying everything used, like for example, used heat pads. I don't know if I would necessarily trust that. I would have to know the person pretty darn well to be able to trust that, and even so, I don't know. I think I would be kind of still a little bit hesitant on those kind of things, so definitely keep that in mind too. But I'm talking about like enclosures, I'm talking about different pieces for a setup or anything of the sort like that. That is something that I think you could take on and you can buy used rather than new and save a few bucks there, and you would have a great outcome as is. I mean, the 90 gallon that I have out there, that was bought used. My 75 gallon was even bought used. Even building things, building rather than buying. I build a lot of my things like my snake racks. Besides the animal plastics right here, I built a lot of these different things in here, as well as it also works for my conveniences as well too. If I need something to be a certain size, I can make it that way, or if I need dimensions or anything like that to be a certain way, I can make it to my personal needs. But also too, I buy new too, so if there's something that I absolutely need, 100% I'm going to buy it as well too new. But I have 100% saved a few bucks buying used equipment and buying used enclosures rather than brand new. So definitely keep that in mind too, because it will help you in the long run saving a few bucks doing those kind of things. So kind of bringing it back to buying in bulk, the next tip that I have for you guys is buying bulk food. And that is something crucial. Buying feeders in bulk is a lifesaver. I mean, you're going through, like for example with these snakes, I'm going through a lot of rodents and prey items, and that is something that has saved me over the years and a lot of money, let me tell you, because food and prey items, it is not cheap. Definitely being a local breeder in an area that raises quality feeders, that is something that if you can do that properly, you will make a pretty penny. Let me tell you, I'll give you that tip right now because it is definitely a good market for that. But regardless of that, you are going to save a lot of money if you buy bulk feeders, whether it's insects, whether it's rodents, whether it's whatever. If you buy in bulk, you're definitely going to get lower costs, which is great. Now, another thing that you guys can do as well too is you can also raise your own feeders if you are able to raise your own feeders. Like I used to raise my own feeders in the past, and I know right now on the scale that I need them, I won't be able to do it, unfortunately. But raising your own feeders will also lower the cost as well too. And I mean, if you have an abundance of them, like I said, it may be a good idea to be also a local breeder for other people in your local area that also need them as well too. Definitely something to look into as well. Bulk food is definitely a must that I would recommend, and probably one of your top savers of money for a reptile collection. Another tip that I have for you guys is working with species of reptiles that have around the same requirements and needs. If you work within those parameters, it's definitely going to save you in the long run. Like I said, I have everything in this room that requires an 80-degree temperature to the mid-80s as well too, so it works out for that, as well as I have a whole bunch of snakes that require rodents for prey items, so it kind of brings that all back in full circle. If you work with things that are with similar needs, it definitely saves you in the long run. For example, the only outlier that I really have that has more of a unique need in this room is going to be the tortoise, and the meaning behind that is I require for that animal, it's going to need, for food specifically, it eats a lot more vegetables rather than anything else that I have in this room. So I will have a lot more food waste in here, but I actually repurpose that and I give it to my isopods, and I've been raising isopods by letting them eat that kind of stuff, so they kind of work with each other and it makes a perfect system that way. But down the line, eventually too, I'll probably have less food waste with that kind of stuff too. Whether I get more redfoot tortoises or if I have something else that requires the same amount of needs, that works out in the end. So definitely things to keep in mind when you're raising a reptile collection is working with animals that are going to have similar requirements. Otherwise, you're going to have issues with reptiles that are all kept in the same room, as well as saving the quality of health of your animals and also in terms of costs. Those are great things to keep in mind too. Now, I will say too, with the money that you are saving, I wouldn't just spend that elsewhere. I would actually invest that back into your collection. And what I mean by that is kind of saving like a rainy day fund, whether it's like a vet visit that comes up out of nowhere, or like if you need to get something that broke or anything like that, that was like a piece of equipment or an enclosure or what have you. Investing in a rainy day fund or an emergency fund, that is going to be something important with the money that you saved. And I highly recommend that because it will save you in the long run too. I mean, I'm saying that a lot, but I mean, all of this is going to save you in the long run, but this is definitely something to keep in mind because problems do happen, things happen, it's life. And you can't really control those kind of things. So having a rainy day fund for a vet visit or an enclosure break or anything like that, or equipment break, that is something that's going to save you. So definitely keep that in mind. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, make sure you let me know down in the comments if you guys have any other tips or tricks that you have for your reptile collections to lower costs and budget your reptile collection. I would love to hear those for myself personally, as well as others would love to too. It would help all of us out, so that would be a great help to all. And thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you could do me a couple favors, if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. Willow would greatly appreciate it as well too. And also too, if you could hit that notification bell so you know when I upload, as well as check me out on my social media. I've been posting a whole bunch of cool things down there and notifying you guys on anything that's changing in the reptile collection or anything cool going on in my reptile collection as well too. Make sure you check us out as well there. Overall, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We appreciate it, and until next time, we will see you guys soon.